My name's Ruth and I want to share my story with you. I run a company called Simply Ruth Limited, and yesterday, Monday actually, I celebrated 365 days in business. And I never really thought, I just think it's fantastic. For me, it's a huge personal achievement. I never thought it was possible at all. And I just want to share with you about the journey I went on to get to where I am today, if you don't mind. I come from real humble beginnings. I've got quite a big family and we didn't have a lot of money growing up. We moved out to Southern Ireland, and this was during the Troubles. So it was a really divided island, and we were Protestant. So it was Protestants in a Catholic environment. I went to a Catholic all-girls convent school. My mum had been divorced and remarried, so we were a bit frowned upon in the community. So we really were outsiders. And it was beautiful. I was blessed. I was gifted in the fact with a charmed childhood, that I had miles and miles and miles and miles of beautiful Irish landscape to roam free in, to ride horses. Not our own, we didn't have any money, but plenty of other people did have horses that needed exercising. We used to hitchhike everywhere, and there was really no traffic. You might get 2 cars past the end of the lane at the end of the day. It was a really charmed life in that sense, growing up on a small holding, but in the same sense as well, I've got a big family and I miss them terribly, in particular my grandpa. My grandpa was a real inspiration to me, absolutely. I loved him to pieces. He's been passed over now for 16 years, and there isn't a day goes by when I don't really think about him. He was a dapper gentleman. He very well turned out. He always used to wear a cravat, and he had a very tidy beard, and he used to smoke a pipe, and he had a passion for cars. And in his lifetime, he'd had over 50 cars. He had a Rolls Royce, he'd had a Bentley, he'd had an Austin 7, and all sorts of cars in between. But we always used to have chats about what he'd done in his younger days. And as my grandpa, as a senior man, he was actually a man of the cloth. He'd become a vicar. But in his younger days, he and his business partner in his early 20s had invented the milk bottle top machine. They do exist now, but Tetra Pak's taken over. But back then, that's what they'd invented, and it became really popular. And they toured all over England, Wales, Scotland, over to Ireland to visit the relatives, out to all the farms, and they sold this machine to the dairies. And then in 1950, he got on a plane and he took it to America, and it took off, and that just totally inspired me. The fact he'd been on a plane, he said he smoked his pipe on the plane, and took business over there and did really, really well. And he got bored of that, and that was going quite nicely. And he actually came back to England and provided for his family, and he opened a gents outfitters. So he had a little chain of shops, one in Housestead, one in Sudbury, one in Walton-on-the-Naze, one in Frinton, and they used to sell things like silk neckerchiefs and cravats, shirts. The whole shop was wooden with little drawers and nooks and crannies. I remember going there when I was a child, and I just used to think it was amazing. Wow, this shop and all these sorts of things tucked away in the business. And as I got older and into my formative years living in Ireland, I missed out on Grandpa being around and talking to him about his business. We came back from Ireland just before my 17th birthday. It was a really confusing time. My parents got divorced. I'd gone from being a farmer girl to living in Essex again. And everyone was wearing suits and knee-high boots and makeup to school, and I didn't really know what that was. I was used to wearing like riding boots and a lumberjack shirt and makeup. What was that? I was a tomboy. So I felt it was a really terrible time for me. I lost my confidence. I felt really shy. I sort of withdrew into myself. And the upside was that I got to spend lots of time with my grandpa. And I remember us talking about he was going to put another extension on the garage. It didn't go sideways, it went back, but how was he going to get around the fig tree? What did he think? And he could get 4 cars in his garage, and he wanted to extend it even further. And he talked to me about bonds and investments, and he really made an impression on me about having your own business. And I thought, yeah, one day I'm going to do that. And I was supposed to be going to university. Parents had got divorced, and confidence was at an all-time low, and I just absolutely froze. I didn't want to go to university. I was going to study to be an occupational therapist. It terrified me. Moving somewhere different, going to do a course in Leicester. I couldn't go, and I said to Mum, I don't want to go, I don't know what to do. And she said, well, don't go. You don't have to go, no one's forcing you. So I didn't. Now, luckily for me, I started working when I was 11. I started working in a shop, and when I moved to Ireland, I worked on farms. I exercised horses. It didn't matter, I didn't get paid because I could ride horses all day. I used to babysit for £1 and £5 here and there, and when I got into sixth form, I started working in a shop again. Well, after making the decision not to go to university, I got offered a full-time job as a supervisor in a high street retailer. And very quickly I was promoted to supervisor and also looking after the training, because what came into retail at that time was EPOS, electronic points of sale, computerised tills. So computerised stock control. This was a massive change. When I first started, you used to type in the actual codes on onto the till, and then you print out at the end of the day what had actually been sold, and that used to get sent off to head office to manage the stock. This meant you didn't have to do any of that. You just scanned barcodes. It was amazing. And our store had this huge space upstairs, and we became the training centre for the South East, so, and that's what I looked after. It was brilliant. It was great fun. I met loads of people. It was something I really got my teeth stuck into, and my grandpa was just around the corner, so I could go and spend my lunchtimes with him. Now, work then started to... I got a boss who was particularly disgusting as a man, and I left. I couldn't work there anymore. And work became a bit confusing for me as well. I'd grown in confidence, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to do that anymore, and I got into, with the training that I'd done, I managed to get into working for a training provider, and I looked after accounts like Next, River Island, Greggs, Marks and Spencer's, all these huge brands, and with those huge brands comes all sorts of red tape, which I found a bit strange, but I complied because I had to have a job so I could buy a house, and that's what I did. I bought a house at 21. Then I lost my grandpa, and it was really devastating for the family to lose our male leading figure in the family, the head of the family. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I really held it in my heart that I wanted to have my own business. But I just had this idea. I wasn't really a specialist in anything, and how was I ever going to be a specialist? Because I just didn't have a degree. Plus, I was a bit different from other people, and much as I can dress up smart, I am a tomboy at heart, and am an outdoors girl. So I just sort of thought, well, maybe one day I'll get really rich and I can open a business doing something, I'll be an expert by then. I just had this idea that that's what you had to be, an expert, and you had to have loads of qualifications and have at least 10 years experience in one area. And in 2007 I got into this thing called Facebook. It was pretty cool. I could connect with some of my school friends and my relatives that were far away, but I still wasn't really very happy. And so in 2008 I sold my house and I went travelling. Sold my house, gave away all my belongings, went travelling, backpack, went to some amazing countries and did some fantastic work while I was away as well. I went and worked for some NGOs abroad, non-government organisations. I spent 3 months in Madagascar, educating local people about health, about raising child mortality, reducing child mortality rates, about teaching them about health education. It was a really, really humbling experience for me, and it really brought me back to some of my own childhood, running around on farms and just being at one with nature and being a bit more connected with who I really am. But I was running away. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but it was okay. I had lots of money in the bank and I could just travel endlessly. Well, obviously the money ran out and I had to come back to England. All the while, sort of all through my life, I've been involved with charitable work. When I was at school, I was involved in conservation work, coppicing the local woods, planting, collecting seeds. I did lots of that in Madagascar, collecting seeds and planting trees. I worked with people with brain injuries in New Zealand. I did start-up business advice in South Africa, which I thought was amazing. I didn't know why were these people asking me this stuff? No, I don't know anything. How can I know anything? I'm not an expert in anything. But people were asking me for advice and they were paying me for it. I also then started to learn about things like LinkedIn and Twitter, but it was just for fun. then I came back to England and I danced around with jobs. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but all of the jobs were in retail, went into sales and marketing, and then eventually just marketing. But all these different jobs, and I still wanted to have a business, and I still used to hear my grandpa's, used to hear him in my, "It'll be all right, Duck, you'll get there eventually, Duck." But I didn't know what I was going to do, and when am I going to be an expert in anything? Oh, I'll just keep working for these people with these silly rules and these silly time constraints and silly ways of doing things that don't make any sense, and got really unhappy with it. In fact, I got so unhappy. In one job, I'd always be late. I'd take a 2-hour lunch break. It's not like me at all, but I hated it. I absolutely hated it, and I think I was pushing them to get rid of me. Well, we'd negotiated I could have 3 weeks off at Christmas, unpaid, for me to go to Nepal. I was going to work with another NGO. This was an orphanage for children displaced by HIV, and I was ready to be heartbroken. I was like, yeah, kids are going to break my heart. I'm ready for this. This is a really good thing to do. I was totally wrong. The kids were amazing. They were absolutely incredible. These children that not only have had huge stigma because of HIV around them or them affected by it themselves, but the threat of being sold for body parts or to slavery or prostitution, yet they run up and they talk to you. All they want is to interact and spend time with you. I was absolutely blown away by the children that I spent time with. What I wasn't prepared for was how hard Nepal was, or Kathmandu in particular. It's the hardest place I've ever travelled. I really, really, really struggled when I was there. I was actually very ill when I was in Kathmandu and spent 3 days pretty much either hugging the toilet or on the toilet. It was pretty gross. When I came back to England, and I thought, I don't know if I didn't wash my jeans in a hot wash, but they're ever so big. I don't know what's happened here. And I went back to work, and I'd been in work for about 2 hours, and I thought, I don't know, I don't feel very well. Sure enough, I brought something horrible back with me. It's called Giardia lambda. It is a parasite that is carried in water, food, by children or animals. So I could have got it from anywhere. Told my mum, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you and the boys. I've got 3 brothers. You all had it that summer when I was about 6. Don't you remember?" I remember. We were all ill, and when I got better, then another one of the brothers passed it on to me, and that's how it works. This parasite lays its eggs inside you. Your body gets rid of it, and then the eggs hatch and they live on you, which is why I was literally wasting away. I lost 10 kilograms in 5 weeks. Hence why my jeans were a bit big. Now, I didn't get paid for this time off work to do my voluntary work, and I didn't get paid to be off work sick either. And while I was, missed the key point. Just before I went to Nepal, this boss that came in, this job I hated, he thought he was Superman, and he used to really irritate me. And I just thought, do the job. You've got bills to pay. Keep your mouth shut. Just comply. And one day he came into the office and he'd asked me to make him a coffee, and I made him a coffee, and he came back in. This is disgusting. I asked for tea, and I was like, well, you asked for coffee, that's why I made it. But this was a routine thing for him. He'd always be awkward, if he asked you to do something in black, he'd then argue that why wasn't it in white. And I said to him, I've made you what you asked me to. And then I thought, well, actually, hang on. I said, are you just being awkward? He's like, yeah. I said, why are you being deliberately awkward? Well, it's fun, isn't it? For me, that's totally inefficient and a waste of my time. And it just felt like I'd been caned on my back, and it snapped, and I thought, this is it. I am going to start my own business. I still don't know what in, but I am going to start my own business. That is it. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot sell my soul to everyone else to make money for them to line their pockets when I'm just totally not happy. So off I went to Nepal, and I had lots of thinking time. When I got back from Nepal, I had a lot of thinking time. I was contagious, so none of my friends could come and visit me. I used to get food parcels on the front door. I was bedridden. If I was bed and bathroom ridden, basically. So laptop, me, bed, bathroom, and I wrote my business plan. I wrote all the content for my website. I wrote all of my marketing literature, and I wrote a marketing plan. What was I going to do? And I decided to launch as I thought a marketing person. I didn't quite know the crux of it, but I thought, this is what I'll do. These are the bones. This is the sort of the skeleton of what I want to do, and I'll plan it out because I've had this time off work unpaid. So I'll aim for June or July, middle of the summer. If it's a lean time in the summer when I first get started, it's hot. You just live on salad. I grow my own vegetables, so I'll be all right. I'll be okay. Don't need to worry about the heating because it's hot or warmer. I'll be okay. And finally, after 4 weeks of recuperation time and taking these horrific drugs from the doctors to get rid of the parasite, which actually made me incredibly anxious, and I couldn't drive actually I couldn't even go outside the house. It was horrible. So combined with the effects of the parasite, my sudden weight loss and these drugs, I was totally housebound. So I went back to work, ready, and I'd had 7 weeks off. And I walked in, and old Superman came in. He said, "Oh, I booked you on a course. You're going to love it." I was like, "Oh, what course is that?" He goes, "It's amazing. It's £3,000. It's a week-long training. You are going to be the guru on XYZ piece of software." Oh, yeah, right. Well, I couldn't lie. Well, my face gave it away. I'm a terrible liar anyway. But he said, "You don't look very happy about this." I said, "Well, why do you want me to be the guru in that piece of software? I'm not technical really at all. I'm not a technical person. I understand enough for what I need to know, but I'm not a technical person." He said, "Well, you're in every day, you're full-time, you're the best person for it." I said, "Well, didn't you want to consult me before you booked and paid for this £3,000 course?" I felt like I was being strangled. He said, "Well, you don't seem very excited about it." I said, "I have to be honest. I'm thinking about setting up my own business." Well, that's it. I have to go and think about this." And off he went. He came back in the room and he said, "Can you leave on Friday?" So, and in my head, I was standing there thinking, what do I say to this? I have got no money. I'm right up to my overdraft. I haven't earned anything for 7 weeks. Planning to launch in sort of 5 or 6 months' time. In my head, I saw this sort of corridor of doors just open one after the other, and I said, "Sure, that'd be great." So on Friday, the 1st of February, I left my job, and on Monday, the 4th of February, I started Simply Ruth Limited. And I had no clients, I had no money, I wasn't entirely sure what I was. But I thought, I know a lot of people, I've done all these jobs. Oh yeah, I've done all these jobs, I know a lot. Wow, my black book's got nearly 1,000 people in it. Why don't I just email everybody and tell them what I'm doing? So I did, and by the end of the week I had 4 contracts. One of those contracts was for 8 months, another contract was for 6 months, and another couple of bits of work came in as well. So I was like, wow, this is brilliant. Now, and that's how Simply Ruth Limited was born. In that time, I've learnt that one of the key reasons I didn't know what to do and while I was so lost and confused is I really didn't know what my values were. And something I've left out is I've spent 7 years in abusive relationships, 2 in particular, and I didn't value myself. I think it was key when I came back from Ireland and my self-esteem hit rock bottom, and I don't think I ever really recovered properly from that. But through networking and running my own business, I met some amazing people, including Vincent and Elaine, but some amazing people, as well as people that I already knew. And I met a coach who worked on values, an NLP coach. I've worked with kinesiologists and acupuncturists, people that are on the natural and alternative spectrum, which is how I was brought up. And I learnt to work out what my values were. That's started to really help me shape my business and work with people that I really wanted to work with. Now, there was a couple of bad eggs along the way. There was one particular client who was horrible and didn't pay and demanded everything. And he turned it around so that my business was actually working 100% on his terms. And at first I was sort of going along with it at 40% his terms, 60% my terms, then a bit more his, and until it was all on his terms. And then one day I just said, well, you're shouting at me because I'm chasing you for our invoices, which are 60 days late, and we've done the work, and it's just not working. This isn't working for me, and let them go meant that I'd got rid of this rubbish and actually was standing by my values about what the people that I want to work with and how I want to run my business and how I want to live my life. When I got rid of that nonsense, I cleared all of that out of my life and my professional life, new opportunities came in, fantastic opportunities, and they haven't stopped. I'm a firm believer in the law of attraction, and things are meant to happen, but also aligning yourself with who you really are. And I really believe that I've been blessed to be able to create a business that allows me to be who I am. Sometimes I dress smartly for work, sometimes I don't. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, people buy into me because of what I do. I've sharpened up my business, and I now do only offer products and services that I want to deliver for people. So a lot of what you people have said today, I've heard today, resonates with me as well, because if you don't have a passion for what you do and it doesn't align with your core values, then it's going to feel wonky, it's not going to work, and it's not going to give you the results you're looking for. That's it.